Brandy Runyan is a seasoned public affairs and communications professional with over 20 years of experience. Founder of prestigious Black Diamond PR and sport management firm, LLC, Brandy manages a broad range of communications and public affairs issues for public and private sector clients in many fields, as well as celebrities, athletes, and others within the entertainment industry. She has considerable experience in assembling and managing alliances to meet communications and public affairs objectives. Her current and past clients include celebrities, athletes, musicians, authors, as well as Fortune 500 companies, leading industry associations, high-profile events, and not-for-profit organizations. Brandy has served on the executive board of directors for several nonprofit organizations, heading up the PR and marketing divisions for Youth for Empowerment, the Dallas 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb, the Association for Memorial Stair Climbs, and others. Brandy earned bachelor's degrees in business management and public relations, as well as a master's degree in sports administration. She was also given the prestigious nomination by her alma mater, Texas A&M University, to join Sigma Alpha Pi. She was inducted into the National Society of Leadership and Success in January of 2018. Brandy currently resides in Texas, where she oversees her firm's local and global operations. Her philanthropic interests include Team Up, Speak Up, and the Concussion Legacy Foundation. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. So, Brandy, I'm so happy to have you on the show today, and I want to know, how did you get your start in PR?
I actually stumbled into the public relations realm completely by accident. I had a change of career at the end of my 20s from the surgical field into marketing and advertising, and I just fell in love with people. I'm a natural problem solver. I'm a human think tank, and it was just the perfect place for me to land.
I love that. You're a human think tank. That's awesome. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you and I might share some of that in common, because I also can hear sort of a problem or a challenge, and immediately in my mind, I kind of can see the path to fix the problem. And I think that's really important in PR. So how long have you been in this business of PR?
Coming up in February, it will make 14 years, but it feels like it was just yesterday.
Well, and of course, our concept of time during this COVID period is all warped, I think. It's like, seems like we've been in COVID forever.
It's like a long winter.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine like what was normal before March 13th. So there's a saying, Brandy, that the riches are in the niches. And I think you've made a decision to niche down into sports PR and management. So tell us about how you made that decision, and have you always done just sport, or have you done all PR?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great story. It's one of my long testimony stories, but I'll make it abbreviated here. We actually spent the first 11 years in entertainment PR, so dealing with a lot of celebrities, high-profile events. We specialized in product placement. We had a lot of huge accounts. that we worked on. And I really, one day I woke up and I was like, I really am not enjoying this anymore. And so I had to make a big decision whether or not I was going to continue at all, if I was going to do something different. And I actually went back to college to get my master's, fell in love with sports law, and again, just woke up one day and I was like, I'm in love with sports, football more than anything. And I fell right into it. So I felt like it was a God moment for me. Like I had finally found my path. I had finally found my calling. And so it doesn't even feel like work anymore. It's the most gratifying, wonderful thing in the whole wide world. But yes, so I don't see us changing our path anymore, but sports has just been the right place.
So you mentioned football. That's your favorite sport of all?
It is my favorite sport. I have to say I'm very guilty of being completely biased when it comes to that. Most of our clientele is football right now, and we're working on diversifying. But yes, we eat, sleep, and breathe football during football season.
And of course, you're in a good place for that, being in Texas, right?
Yes.
Of course, I'm up here in New England Patriots country.
Oh my goodness! We used to live up in Massachusetts, and we were, you root for the home team, when you live there. So we were huge Tom Brady fans, and now he's in Tampa Bay throwing with one of my receivers. So
I know, it's so weird seeing him play for a different team this past weekend. I had a hard time.
Yeah, it doesn't look right.
No.
Yeah, you look at that uniform, and it's symbolic of something else. And I walk in, and I feel like my brain is broken right now.
Yeah, right. So how does traditional PR differ from sports PR?
Believe it or not, it's actually quite different, as we've learned as we kind of fell into sports. Most of what we do here is athlete management. So the PR is interwoven in, and I tell people all the time, 99% of the money that you spend on PR is in prevention. So we spend a lot of time preventing things, and we spend a lot of time grooming athletes and teaching them how to conduct themselves and things like that. So a lot of the traditional PR is built into that, but it's less, pitching things all the time. There's a great deal less writing involved with what we do. I mean, right now we do the standard PR stuff when we have events our athletes do, or partnerships and endorsements that we have to announce and things like that. But I'd say most of it is more hands-on with the athlete management side of it.
Well, I have worked in, specifically with the ski business, and I have had experiences where athletes have not been that respectful towards the media, or actually towards me for that matter. And do you have times when you have to sort of train athletes on why it behooves them or why it's a good idea to be more respectful towards the media?
Yes, we do. And we have never had, I've only had that problem one time since we started working with athletes, and it's not someone we work with anymore. But we typically, when we onboard a new client, especially these athletes, one of the very things that we run them through is a full PR training and prep, and we train them exactly how to interact with the media, whether they're doing an on-field interview right after a game, or a locker room interview, or if it's a sit-down formal interview, whatever it is, we walk them through that entire process, from making eye contact and shaking hands to, after the interview, making sure that they know the journalist's name and say, hey, Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and can I get your card, so that they can give it to us to follow up. So we have them trained very, very well so that it's more of a natural, eloquent process.
I'm glad you said that piece about using the journalist's name, because I talk about that a lot, not only with journalists, but just most anyone that you're doing business with, because a person's own name is sort of the sweetest sound in the whole language. And if you use someone's name, Brandy, for example, it does, it's a sign of respect, and it's a sign that you honor the other person. So I think that's one of the building blocks to building a good relationship over the long term, and sort of showing the other person that you respect them enough to remember and use their name. So what makes Black Diamond so successful? I spent quite a bit of time before this interview today on your website, and it looks like you've got a lot of really great credentials. And how has your agency become so successful?
We do something differently here than anywhere else, and I'm very confident in that. I'm actually almost done writing my book on the method that we developed here, and the key to the success, what we do here, comes down to our relationships with our athletes, with all of our clients. We spend a great deal of time. They're not members to us, they're family to us. We don't even barely maintain traditional work hours. If they're texting us, at 11 o'clock at night and it's urgent, we take care of them. We care about them. I tell people all the time, I've got my family and my own, biological children, and I've got, a slew of professional athletes that are like my kids. And so, the relationship is key. We don't take our responsibility lightly. We know that, we're in charge of their most precious asset, which is their career right now, and we have the power to destroy it if we're not careful. So we're very humble about what we're, held responsible for. And we're very personal with these guys. And we remember their birthdays. We send cards to their kids for their birthdays. We have baby shower items that we send. We take care of them. We treat them like people. It stopped being a paycheck for us years ago. And so people that are coming here aren't just coming here for the service. They're coming here for the relationship. And they know that when they sign here, they don't just get the reputation, but we're going to love on them, and we're going to respect them, and we're going to elevate them in this industry, and we're going to care about them as people.
Well, I'm sure that leads to a lot of referrals, too, because I'm sure that when they're in the locker room talking about their agency and their PR representation, they're very proud to be affiliated with your agency. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it does. They do pass it around. They do. They're always talking. If you ever watch Jerry Maguire, at the end of the movie, the other football player turns to his agent and he says, "Why don't we ever hug like that?" And it's, we laugh about that because that's, kind of what we do for our guys.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really enjoying this conversation. We're going to take a short break now. I want to talk about my new book, which is called Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand, on Amazon.com as either paperback or Kindle. And very soon it will be available in Audible. And it's about the premise that if you want to be more well-known, like one of the athletes that Brandy's agency represents, you need to grow your audience, and that's how to grow either a personal brand or an organizational brand. And that's all about having a brand that people can know, like, and trust. So if you want to learn more about my book, you can go to prmaven.com, or actually I even have a site at growyouraudience.growyourbrand.com, and I hope you'll check that out. And we'll be back in just a moment with more from Brandy Runyan.
Do you want to grow your client or customer base? Perhaps increase brand awareness? Maybe tell your unique story more effectively? Of course you do. But you may be worried that you don't have enough expertise to make that happen. Well, no worries, PR Maven Nation. Let the PR Maven herself, Nancy Marshall, show you how easy it is to get your message across effectively using a powerful yet simple tool, a message map. Nancy's training is often called informative and constructive, well-designed and impactful, with a perfect blend of theory and real-life experience. You will leverage Nancy's expertise to create your own message map when you register for this comprehensive online video training course, which is broken down into 4 easy-to-understand modules. Normally, this course is priced at $147, but for listeners of the PR Maven podcast, that's you, PR Maven Nation, it's only $29 when you enter the code word podcast during enrollment. It even includes a workbook and bonus content to guide you through the process. So go to prmaven.com and click on the Message Map Mastery course to enroll today. Remember, enter the word podcast during enrollment for a special discounted price of $29.
Welcome back, and today we're talking with Brandy Runyan, CEO and founder of Black Diamond PR and sport management firm. I'm going to dive right back in with more questions for you, Brandy. What do you like best about the business, Brandy?
Oh, man. You know, the best thing about working in our industry for us is our clients. I mean, every day we wake up, you know, we're excited to get in the trenches with these guys and gals, and they're all so different in their personalities, and they bring so much to the table that they make this job fun, and we're able to have complete creative control to use our skills to do the job that we need to do for them. And if it weren't for that element, we'd have no purpose.
Well, I'm sure they feel the love and the respect that you have for them, and they probably return that back to you. So I can see how that would be very rewarding. And that leads to my next question, which is, what is your approach to client service at Black Diamond?
Our approach is we are very hands-on. So there are lots of phone calls. There's lots of communications. There's never any transparency issues. I think that's one of the things that our clients like. We just have a whole protocol of transparency. We hold weekly consultation calls with every single client that we represent. So we are in constant communication, and we tell them, you know, you don't have to wait until next week until your appointed time. Call me, text me, email me. And I think that that approach has kept everyone really happy, but it's also kept everyone really accountable. So our guys can't fall through the cracks with the things that we're requiring of them, and we certainly can't get by if we're not doing our job, because everybody knows. So, you know, our thing is just, you know, making sure that we're on top of everything, that we're staying in complete constant contact with them at all times.
Yeah, and I saw on your website, too, that you're monitoring what's showing up about them in the media on a constant basis. So you must have an elaborate system of media monitoring.
We do. We have a lot of alerts and analytics and things like that. So if something pops up, print, radio, written, anything like that, then we can be prepared so that they don't have to necessarily wake up and figure out that they're trending. You know, we will have already caught that and had a plan or response if it were warranted, and things like that. It also helps with our bigger guys, our NFL guys, if they're having a bad week and they're getting bashed in the media. You know, we kind of tell them, hey, turn it all off this week and you let us worry about what people are saying, and then, you know, we'll figure out what our next step's going to be.
Yeah, well, you must do a lot of work with the clients to figure out messaging and media training and rehearsing so that they're able to respond easily and quickly in bad situations as well as good situations.
Yeah, and luckily we haven't had too much of that, but I have. I was at the movie theater one time a couple of years ago. One of my NFL guys sent me a text right in the middle of my movie, and he said, hey, I'm doing this interview, and this guy just asked me this question, and we're at a break right now, and I don't know what to say. And so I ran out of the theater and I told him exactly what to say, and we had it down before their commercial break was up. So yeah, just staying on top of it and being accessible is the best that we can do.
Oh, that's great. Except, did you ever get to see the part of the movie that you missed?
Yeah, I had to go back, had to wait for DVD or, you know, the streaming service, but it was okay. You know, it makes you feel good though when they need you. And when they trust you enough to come to you. And it's funny, we had that with Cyril Grayson when he bumped from the Saints to Tampa Bay. And then when they brought Tom Brady in, he called me and he said, hey, can we redo my media prep now that Tom Brady's here? You know, we knew they were going to be asking, you know, how does it feel to throw with him after you've thrown with, you know, you've caught from Drew Brees and, you know, all of that. So it's really nice, and it makes you feel like you're really on top of your job when they're relying on you and they come and they ask.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that the arrival of Tom Brady was quite an upheaval for the other players because he's kind of a superstar.
He is. He is.
So, how has PR evolved over the course of your career with more and more online media outlets available? And are you still pitching traditional media like newspapers and TV stations, or are you focusing pretty much exclusively on digital?
We still are very heavily reliant on traditional media. So I still believe that if you have a good story and you've crafted it correctly, it is worth the effort to pick up the phone and build relationships with journalists. And that can be tedious and difficult because they're like ants, you know. One day they're there and one day they're not. And so you do have to put in the extra work. But I feel like, you know, picking up the phone, building these relationships is still better than, you know, putting press releases and articles and things like that into the big mega machines and having it sent to everyone. So it's changed a lot just with the accessibility of different media these days. But I'll be honest, you know, we still do things the hard way. We still research journalists and we build our own databases by hand, and we make phone calls and send emails and build relationships before we just send stuff.
Well, I'm sure the journalists can tell that you've done your homework before you reach out, and they're not just getting a mass email that's going to thousands of people. So I'm sure that pays off. And it's great for me to hear you say that you pick up the phone, because I think so many young people who are just coming out of school, like they've never even really talked on the phone. They've just been texting their whole life. So I think there's something to be said for those of us who might have grown up with like the old analog telephone before the age of email.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that learning how to use the telephone and even calling somebody that you don't know, that's a skill that I think is a good thing for young people to learn, is how to make a call, cold call, and pitch a story. It can be intimidating. And some journalists are not necessarily that nice, especially if they're on deadline. They can snap at you. And you have to remember that it's not personal. And, you know, I think the first thing you should say to a journalist when you're calling them is this a good time? And if it's not a good time, you know, is there a time later, perhaps when you're not on deadline, that I should call you back?
Yes, I agree. They're getting pitched constantly all the time, blindly, most of the time. So, you know, we love to research different journalists to see what they've published in the past and see what areas of interest they're in, because if it's a good match for my story, that's what I'm looking for, is people who've published either stories about my clients in the past or stories like the one that we're putting out. And then we call them up and say, hey, you know, we've got this. I know you've written about this in the past, and I would love to see if you might be interested in this one too. And the results are just so much better that way.
Totally. And as you said, that's the way to build long-term relationships. So they'll remember that you brought them a good story, and then they might call you because they trust you that you're going to provide good information or access to an athlete. And so, you know, I think that's one of the advantages of staying in PR over the long term. I know I've been in PR almost 40 years myself now, so I hate to even say that out loud because it sounds like so long. But yeah, you do build relationships with journalists, and the most important thing is that they trust you, that they trust that you're going to tell them the truth and you're going to follow up when you say you do. You know, you have to realize that journalists are usually on a deadline, and so it's really important to honor those deadlines. And I'm sure that's one of the things that you guys do that's so memorable. Brandy, is there a book, or an app, or a website that you have found helpful in your career, and why?
Ooh, that was a tough one for me. So PRSA is still an invaluable resource to me, just with all the professional development things that they publish. There's a lot of information there. We reference a lot of things like that and try to read. The best thing people can do in our industry, or really any industry, is to continue learning. So we're on a continuous quest to keep learning new information. I love talking to people who know more than I do. so that I can glean information off of them and do my job a little bit better. We listen to a lot of public speakers, a lot of motivational people and thinkers. I love thinkers in the way that the mind works, because you've got procedural PR and then you have instinctual PR. And so it's nice to make sure that you're nurturing both sides of your process. So, yeah, I think PRSA is still a great resource just for, the professional development side. And the rest of it, people just have to get outside the box and figure out what's missing and plug it in.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that about thinkers, because I think that's one of the things I love about podcasting is you can listen to so many interesting people on podcasts. And, having my own podcasts, I'm able to invite people who otherwise I might not be able to have a conversation with. But if you invite them to be on a podcast, they're willing to give you, half an hour or 40 minutes of their time. So thank you for your time today. And if people want to follow up and get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
They can definitely reach us at our website, www.blackdiamondfirm.com. You can always get in touch through our contact. Usually, if it's for me, someone will make sure it gets to me.
I'm curious about the Black Diamond because, again, I come out of the ski industry, and Black Diamond are the hardest trails. Is that the origin of your firm's name?
You know what? We get asked that all of the time, especially athletes always ask us, where'd you come up with that? We love that. And it is, we see, everything's kind of symbolic, I guess, in the way that I think. And, when you're doing PR and you're handling a lot of different kinds of situations, and sometimes it's a mountain. So, yeah, it kind of equates to that. It also equates, to the Black Diamond, the gem, that they're rare and they're precious. And, the whole process of finding a diamond that equates to the journey of every athlete that we work with too. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to us, and everyone seems to like it. It's got a nice ring to it. So,
yeah, I think it's awesome. Well, Brandy, this has been a lot of fun talking to you today. I want to thank you, and I'm sure everybody listening in PR Maven Nation enjoyed it as well. And I hope they follow up with you. And I hope everyone in PR Maven Nation has a great day. That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for listening. And if you feel that you've gotten value out of today's conversation, consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever app you're using to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so. I release a new episode each week, and subscribing will make sure you get an alert when there's a new episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation by going to prmaven.com/nation and clicking join. It's free, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, be sure to add the PR Maven Marketing Minute to your daily flash briefing menu. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.